365 and answering questions from the community. My name is Christian Buckley. I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP and Microsoft Regional Director, and I'm also the Microsoft Go-to-Market Director for AvePoint. And joining me here today on our illustrious panel of experts, we have Mr. Sean McDonough, a consultant with the Bitstream Foundry in Cincinnati, Ohio, and also an Office Apps and Services MVP. We have Hal Hostetler, a senior field engineer with Roland Shore and Tower in Tucson, Arizona, also an Office Apps and Services MVP. We've got a theme here. And we have Eric Riz joining us shortly, hopefully here, who's CEO of Empty Cubicle, another Office Apps Services MVP based out of Toronto. Mike Nelson, a solution architect with Rubrik and Pure Storage, because he doesn't have enough to do. He has to have two jobs. That's just, I guess there's a lot that's going on there. He is a cloud and data center management MVP based in Appleton, Wisconsin. And are you under like 10 feet of snow up there, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only about 10 below. So
yeah.
Yeah, just to correct something too, is that I actually don't work for Rubrik any longer, so we need to take that out.
Okay, all right.
But I'm the odd person out because I'm a cloud and data center MVP, and all these other guys are office people. So,
and we should also have later today joining us, so midway through the program, all the way from the great state of Texas, Microsoft Senior Program Manager Neil Hodgkinson. But for the program today, the way that we run these, so it's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific is our EMEA session. We do another session for Asia Pacific at 5 p.m. Pacific, but we'll be reviewing some of the latest Message Center updates. We'll discuss a topic from the latest Microsoft news and share our thoughts there. And then we'll jump in and answer questions from the community. So with that, hello, everyone, officially.
Greetings.
Yo.
Howdy.
And there is Riz. We have Riz. The Riz is here. Hello.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's great to have everybody here. And as we were just talking about weather and the winter storm warnings and a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, Mike, so my daughter who's in Oswego, Minnesota, so I look at her weather after I look at Salt Lake weather every day, and it's usually like a 40 to 50 degree difference between here and there. So
I really feel bad for the folks in Texas. So that's I have a friend that lives down there, a fellow colleague that is getting hit pretty hard. I mean, they don't have any water. They've been without power for 3 days. So it's not good down there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to that kind of experience.
Jennifer Roth has mentioned that her house is like 34 degrees on the interior. She hasn't had heat for days now. They thankfully had a friend that they could go just crash with. But yeah, the situation down there is a difficult one for many people.
Yeah.
We got hit with that yesterday morning here in Toronto. And of course, the infrastructure here is a tad different for that type of storm. So
yeah,
as in you have it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't.
And as you can see, I have power and everything is fairly normal.
Well, excellent. Well, why don't let's jump right into things with the Message Center updates. And Mike, what's been happening?
Sure.
I know I get a lot of these emails coming through, and what's the latest?
Well, as you folks know, last week we talked about Microsoft Viva, right? So Microsoft's new, Viva. I always think of Viva paper towels. You know, for some reason that comes.
I think mariachis.
Mariachi.
I just want to say, Viva la Microsoft.
Viva, the three amigos. So Viva Topics has now been released, which is the artificial intelligence, AI, that allows people the knowledge and expertise, with Teams and 365 to work together. So that is actually that has been announced. The only problem is it's not free. It actually is a purchase. So if you want to use Topics, you have to buy it. It's only applicable to specific Office licenses, which you can find out from your licensed folks.
So much for the free first taste being free, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Christian, you'll like this one. Outlook is now getting reactions, and so everybody knows what reactions is, right? So you can give no. Well, guess
I know
what?
what a reaction is, but I don't know how the reactions are.
In Outlook for Web,
You mean the little emojis and thumbs up and thumbs down stuffs, right?
Yeah, well, in Outlook for Web,
cool.
Outlook for Web, Outlook for iOS and Android, you'll be able to now do things like, love, laughter, celebration, surprise, and sadness. Especially the sadness one for Christian. We'll let that go. And once you apply a reaction to an email, the reaction will be visible in the reading pane for users that have 365.
And if you have any other reaction, that's too bad.
Yeah,
you only have 6. One of
What I don't, it's hard for me to understand is that they put a condition on that reaction. Is that the only way you can see reactions is if it's within the same tenant. So if you send it to someone, outside of your tenant, they won't see the reaction. And I'm not really getting why they did that. But
you're saying that that's an overreaction?
Yeah. Yes.
So we need cross-platform or cross-cloud reaction capability. That's right.
Come on, Sean. Raise your head. You're okay.
If I'm going to flip someone the bird, I want to do it across company boundaries.
That's right. That's right. Okay. New lists that everybody knows what lists are. We've been talking about them in a couple of shows around SharePoint and Microsoft lists. Well, they'll now have versioning enabled by default. I can't believe that Microsoft put something out that doesn't have versioning enabled by default, but they did, and now they'll be turning it on. So new lists will retain up to 50 of the most recent major versions.
There was an inherent joke there. Have you tried turning it off and on? Sorry. New features, then next month we'll turn it on.
Yeah. Woo. So, hey, this one is, we got to talk about the Microsoft police, right? And Microsoft has their own little police force, especially around Exchange. And what they're doing is they're updating the way they enforce the receiving limits in Exchange. So Microsoft has always been kind of, we'll enforce it, but we're not going to really enforce it. But now they're clamping down, right? They're they're pulling out the cuffs, saying that starting in April 21, they'll be more strictly enforcing limits across all mailboxes to protect the health of our systems and ensure optimal mail flow performance for all customers. Now, if that wasn't a market
speak, yeah.
Yeah, it was
modeling us. That's right. That's what's going on.
So their justification is that mailboxes that receive high message volume in a short time can cause mail flow delays, both for individual recipients and across the org. So they're actually going to be throttling for recipients that exceed the threshold, they call published and established threshold of 3,600 messages per hour. Now, I didn't know that they had a published and established threshold of 3,600 messages per hour, but
damn much.
Yeah. It's not the fact that there is a threshold, the system. It's the fact that you have users where the threshold is needed.
It was being breached. That's just it. Who breaches that?
Yeah.
Right. And it was actually, they even stated it was a soft limit before, it was, now they're making it a hard limit, which means that's it. You're done. You hit 3,600. It's over with.
I think it's important to talk about this just for a second about, why Microsoft goes in and does, this kind of throttling around the various services. You have to remember if you have consistently have issues with these limitations that Microsoft puts in place, your option is always to go back to an on-prem or hybrid solution and go run it yourself and then set whatever magic limits that you want there. And just to remember, Microsoft has to run and manage and govern this entire platform and the tenant on your behalf. They are our outsourced IT organization for Office.
So stop spoiling it for the rest of us.
Yeah,
that goes for all the people who managed to disrupt our unlimited storage by uploading 50 petabytes to OneDrive. Shame on you.
That's why we can't have nice things. All right, I got 2 more left. I know Christian's got a timer on me, so I got to get rocking here.
Yeah.
Team meetings, 2 team things. Team meetings will support view-only attendees now. So currently, team meetings are limited to 300 users. If someone tries to join after that, reaches capacity, they're unable to do so. But with the update, the meeting orgs, okay, will be able to assign a license for the overflow as a view-only license. So they can't
Stalker
interact.
mode.
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of a stalker, type of thing. So up to 20,000 view-only attendees may join a meeting from late February through the end of June, and up to 10,000 may join a meeting after July 1st, 2021. So they're cranking it up through the end of June, and then they're scaling it down after that. So the same thing's going to happen with the team's live events as well. And then the last thing is that they're allowing anonymous presenters in team live events. So I don't know why anyone would want an anonymous presenter, but with the update, meeting orgs will be able to allow anonymous presenters in a team's live event. Can you guys think of any reason they'd want an anonymous presenter?
Witness protection program?
Perhaps.
Submitting evidence, don't want to be tied to it. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's going live. It'll be here around April.
Deniability.
Well, there with problems with people switching between tenants and joining in, and so to give the admin for that live event some control over to identify, hey, that's that right person, whatever issue, or that they're not able to log in the tenant. I just want to give them the control to be able to present. I mean, there's a scenario, and that's actually more common than you would think.
Wow.
I don't know. That's just one thought.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what I got. Hopefully I got it right under the wire for you there, Christian.
No, way over, but that's okay.
I told Hal to stop talking. If Hal just would not talk.
Hal, come on. Everyone needs to take a turn to talk, Hal. Come on.
It was 5 minutes in practice as a warm up. I don't know what happened.
Well,
yeah, it's all scripted, Riz. It's all scripted.
So I do want to jump into our weekly topic. Is everybody seen the Microsoft List adoption site? Were you aware that was announced or released, pushed out there?
They have an adoption site for lists.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
I suspect what happened here. So Microsoft has been really great over the last, a few years on, the improvement of the quality and quantity of adoption materials that have been put out there for each release. And I know that with, so one of my favorite Microsoft people from the product marketing side of things that owns lists, Mark Cashman, and he's out there singing the praises of the new list apps. And I've interviewed him. We all know Mark, and he's doing a great job. But I suspect, just from reactions of interactions that I've had and questions that we've seen, that we've gone and looked, and we've even answered some list related questions through this session, that adoption is struggling of the new Teams list app. That's just my take. I don't know numbers around that. So the fact that they went and created a specific adoption website, and you can find it. So it's part of the main adoption resources. So adoption.microsoft.com, whack Microsoft-lists, and we'll include that in the summary. There's the link. I put it over for my fellow panelists there.
But I'm just not seeing it. Really.
The chat's muted, it says.
You have to create. You have to create
unmute.
You have to create an adoption website to just be able to push a product that isn't doing so well.
Well, so Mike, that was my take. I don't know that it's not doing well.
But you're the smartest guy on this call, Christian.
That's true. I'm just glad to hear someone else say it. But no, I don't mind that they, I understand that they want to, it's not just get people in there to go take a look, kick the tires, play around, but to start to utilize, the full and robust capabilities of the solution and to understand other scenarios and provide those resources. Honestly, I'd rather have, an extension of the adoption website with videos and other resources than just to be given a link to a PDF or a docs.microsoft link and to go read through the text. I want to see the more interactive content. I want to see pretty graphics.
I get it, but I just didn't think that lists would be. I mean, the effort that's put forward on something like that, list is like Planner. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not a showcase product for Microsoft, is it?
I don't know. I hear from everybody else, but I think it probably has a wider audience than Planner does, where
really
project management tools are a subset of. I think they're both broad categories, but I think Planner has the ability to be a much more integral part of your, certainly your Teams experience, but your Microsoft 365 experience. I mean, so if you go to the front page of it, and so it has the adoption playbook, and that'll walk you through kind of everything that's included, but it has that quick start guide, so you can go in, it has the scenario desk, and there's the lookbook as well. So it shows you what's capable. So it's worth a look just to go and see what are other people doing with this. Have I just not understood fully, Mike, maybe the scope and the potential?
I don't pay attention to the shiny baubles very often. So when lists rolled out, and it's still a case for me, I don't understand what advantage it offers over existing tools, and I don't understand recommended use cases. That's me personally. And I think if there are plenty of other users out there like me, and there have to be at least a few, they're probably wondering the same things. Why would I use this?
Yep.
That would be a great reason to go and check it out and see if it's something that you want to share within your org. If you're not understanding the value of it, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's why you're not adopting it. And if you know more about it.
I agree. And in my infinite free time, I think that's something I would more actively do. But oftentimes, if it doesn't get pushed to me, I don't have a compelling reason to go look for it unless we're having a conversation like this. So,
is it true, Sean, that this is your only meeting today? This is it? Just the one.
I wish.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I mean, I think that from what I'm hearing from clients, it's okay. So this is basically like Excel but different, and it looks nicer in other areas like Teams. But generally speaking, I'm not about to go and retrain my people to do things differently when it's the same information at the end of the day. So whether I'm putting my content into Excel or lists or Planner or to do, it's all the same information. So you're sort of you're fighting for focus here. Which of those 4 apps are going to get that content? And if I want to push that through my entire organization, I have to teach all these people how to use these tools to get to the same information. Doesn't make a ton of sense. So I haven't spent a ton of time looking at the adoption case studies and things, but I imagine there's a lot of content there that provides and proves that justification of why use this over that. That's typically what most of the stuff goes to these days. But generally, seeing the same things as everyone else.
Well, one thing I would recommend for folks that aren't familiar with the List app, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are, from the SharePoint side of things, and so SharePoint lists, and they get that. And that homepage for the List app, it allows you to see all of your SharePoint created lists as well as your, List app created lists. And so it's one place to kind of look at all those resources. But if you're unfamiliar with the app, and I'm by no means am I an expert. I've gone and built a few simple things, but as I've been, as an independent, I had a couple things that I was tracking through it when it was first released, but just wasn't something that I needed as an independent business owner. So starting to build some things out and use it more now with my new day job. But one of the things I would say is to go to the adoption website, and let me go back to it because I moved away from the page there. So you go to, again, adoption.microsoft.com, whack Microsoft-lists, and you'll see the Get Started tab that it opens to. Click on the Quick Start Guide. Maybe start there, and that it's an embedded PowerPoint presentation and just walks you through those screenshots of kind of the basic, the high level, everything that it does, and both in the application within the browser as well as on the mobile. And so you can get just kind of a 30,000 foot view of what it's capable of doing, and then go from there. All right. Well, interesting stuff. Let's see. So before we get into questions, I want to highlight something. There's no homework from last week.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. So that means that we have more time to answer more questions. And we are monitoring, so we're live. This is a live stream. We're out on LinkedIn. We're monitoring the questions that are asked out there. We can try and answer some live questions. So if you have something that's a Microsoft 365 related, that we can try to answer some of those. But with that, we've got a number of questions that we've pulled from various community sites. Some of them answered, some of them unanswered, those other locations. Let's see, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I completely forgot to insert an unanswerable telephony question again today, second week in a row. I'll have to add to the questions for this evening's session. But let's, is everybody ready? Should we just jump right in with question number 1?
Let's do this.
All right, here we go. Question number 1, Rahul says, is it possible to toggle between French and English versions of the same SharePoint site? This is on SharePoint 2013 on-prem. The client does not want to create 2 separate sites for each language, but wants the ability to toggle between 2 languages on the same site.
No.
Is that possible?
Is that the answer?
All right.
Yeah. I don't know the answer.
SharePoint's still using variations, which involves if you implement variations on the same site, which involves creating pages for everything that you want to show in another language. This has been a pain point for many global organizations, Canadian organizations where they do speak French and English, things like that. Variations, I'm going to come right out and say it. Variations suck. They suck bad. A number of vendors have brought out different ways of doing multilingual that just involves providing additional translations for content rather than focusing on the creation of entire pages and site structures like Variations does. And I know Microsoft at one point was trying to think about something better than Variations, but no, we still got Variations. So you can't just toggle it unless there's a variation for the language you're interested in.
Yeah, it isn't the default reaction too. Is the language change, the toggling is just within the interface itself. You'd still have to go and provide all the translation of all the content. I mean, that's
there's nothing automated. All it would do is if you have another language in the browser, what the variation system is going to do is route that to the appropriate page if it exists. So you'll probably, in most cases, we deal with, you're going to have a default English language site. And then you would have, if I've got a home page, I might provide that home page in another language, but I'd need to create all that content myself. Now, of course, there are tools if you want to build flows to provide translations in a semi-automated fashion. You could build all that plumbing, but it's not there for you. Auto-translate doesn't exist, so you're left finding your own solution for that translation. Other than, there's nothing simple like, at least not that I'm aware of, like when you visit a site in Google Chrome and it asks you if you want to, translate to English, if it's in a non-English language, it does its best job to auto-translate on the fly. But there's nothing like that built into SharePoint that I'm aware of.
I want to see them add that fun. Back in the old, it happened both in iPhone as well as Android devices, the voice message translation service. Those are some fantastic translations. I would like that technology to be moved across. Or for the folks that didn't have that experience, you ever tried to use that, like the taking the speech to text?
It's good for drinking games.
It was highly entertaining. I would do that like driving and want to listen to my voicemail messages or listen to emails, and some of that the transcription services is less than perfect. So, Neil, welcome.
Thank you. I made it.
Let's throw this one at Neil. Maybe he has some inside track.
What? You can't do that to me.
So it's about toggling between French and English in the same SharePoint site. We're still on variations, right?
Well, variations is still a thing. There's a bunch of third-party people who've done. I think PointFire is one that did a great. Well, I say great. I don't know. I've never tried it myself, but they were certainly seemingly successful in their solution for.
Well, since we're naming
translation,
Akumina.
Yeah.
The Akumina platform has an excellent multilingual capability. You can provide translations in a fallback language, so it works wonderfully for content. But in the pure play SharePoint world, we're still stuck on sucky variations.
Yep. Which gets also incredibly slow as you get more languages you put in. The variations list exists as a single list at the root of the SharePoint URL, the SharePoint web application, and it's not a per site collection thing. So it can become incredibly slow.
So it sucks.
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm saying that. But
I was in the SharePoint product group. Pete's sake, come on.
All right. Question number 2. Jasdeep says, I recently discovered the massive world of Microsoft 365 apps and hoping they can help me at work. It's very optimistic. Good luck to you, sir. I'm part of a team of 4, and I'm looking for a way to manage an onboarding checklist for every time we take on a new client. I use Cognito Forms, don't know what that is, to collect info from clients, as they can save the form part way. Don't believe Microsoft Forms offers this yet. Save the form part way through and complete later. When it comes back in, we have 10 to 15 tasks to perform. What would you recommend for managing a checklist to make sure a task is completed? Something that can be saved to use for different clients.
Post-its?
Darts?
It sounds almost like there should be something out there with Power Apps and Flow that could potentially do that, but I really don't know.
Well, we talked about last week that there's a relatively new feature that's out there in that allows you to post kind of a public list. I mean, there's kind of an it depends answer of what you're trying to build. Is it that you have kind of repeated tasks, it's the same thing but for different clients, and you want to be able to reuse that structure of that task structure? So it looks like that he's talking about creating kind of a repeatable framework of tasks around the completion of that intake form.
Yeah, it's like I think about, if I think about Microsoft, right, the way we operate, when we do our reviews, like some do every 4 months, some do every 2, some whatever, we there's a form. You go online, you open a form, you fill it out, and if you're not completed it, you can save it, right? Almost like a session. So you come back, you reload the saved session, and there it is. And then when you're complete, when you're done, you're going to tell your manager how wonderful you've been this year and get all the money and stuff. Then you click submit, right? So it sounds like that's what he or she is looking for. I forget the name, sorry. They're looking for a state where you can fill out a form and save it and come back to it later. I don't know if Microsoft Forms offers that functionality. I really don't know.
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think it does. Nothing in my recollection tells me that I've seen that before.
I'm thinking along the same lines as you, Neil, kind of like a flow backed process. If the tasks are roughly the same or there's very little variation, you should be able to orchestrate that through a flow. Or if you're a Microsoft enterprise and you use System Center tools, System Center Orchestrator, particularly when you've got tasks that are technical in nature, like provisioning AD accounts and whatnot. Orchestrators like BizTalk for technical back-end processes. So you can build complex orchestrations that automate system tasks that you would have to do, for instance, when onboarding a new employee, like getting forms submitted, getting accounts created, permissions granted, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, you can go old school and think about old school SharePoint workflow, right? Your workflow has stages and it preserves the state and the session of those stages until it's complete. So, I mean, it's that kind of scenario. But specifically what's being asked for, I don't know. Well, I kind of know, but I don't. It depends. Right? As you said, Christian, it's a depends situation.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm wary of trying to badger anybody into a homework situation for next week, because like we've given kind of the general answers to go and look into it, but it really just kind of depends. So I'm not sure what homework we'd assign and go look into. When you get to some of these questions, something like this, where there needs to be much more of a back and forth with the person asking the question to kind of better understand what are they really trying to do, where are they running into a wall, and where have we entered into a consulting arrangement?
Yeah, get yourself a good business process architect who maybe has some development skills.
Yeah, that's for something like this, there's another way to ask the question out in some of the online communities is to ask if there's anybody that has done similar work, consulting work, and you'll get quite a few folks that'll respond.
Or send an email to Mark Rackley and ask him to build you a solution gratis. He loves those emails.
Yeah. Do you have where do you email Mark Rackley, Sean?
I would go to SharePointHillbilly.com, and I'm sure he's got a form there.
That's right. The intake form for the free stuff. I think it is. Yep.
Does it have a pause and save button?
If you find that you're not sure what else you want to ask for, just fill it out several times. I think that's.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark. Don't bug Mark.
I'm not. Yeah. No, dude.
He loves it.
Bug Mark. Come on.
Just like Vesta does. He loves it.
Yeah, that's what he loves it. That's why I used to always give out Bill Bear's email address at Microsoft during presentations, and we joke about it. And people are like, I can't believe he just gave out Bill's actual email. It's like, yeah, Bill's fine with that. If he doesn't know the answer, he won't respond to you. But if it's like a good question, valid question, Bill was be all over it and respond and be like, and he's happy to do that. So,
and grouse about it behind the scenes.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Question number 3. Cynthia asks, even though I left an organization, this organization still appears on the drop down of my organization list. What should I do? So it's a Teams related question.
Top right corner.
Yep. So you've left the org, it still appears.
So you left the org. Do you know if the administrator has actually removed you from the org?
I've had this happen with OneDrive and the Sync client, and it ended up being, that list is kept somewhere in the registry on the client side. So I know that if you search, you can find a registry-related article, what you want to scrub out of there. Of course, standard wording applies. Don't go hacking unawares in the registry, but I believe that's cached client side in the registry.
Is that a disclaimer, Sean?
That would be the equivalent of a well-worded disclaimer I might perhaps show at a time like this in a program about giving advice to people.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you guys you're going for there, Mike. Is I still want to have that Stream Deck that button with the disclaimer that just flashes on screen there of. Yeah. So, hey, everybody, you're getting the value that you're paying for with this free event. So,
the participants in today's call are paid actors and actually have no idea what is going on.
Thanks for the tee up, Mike.
I know this is a slightly different thing because when you're, of course, added to guest networks in Teams, and seeing those. There's a process. I've not done it in quite some time, but actually logging into Azure, going into those groups and removing yourself from each of those to have them disappear from that top right. But I've not had the experience of removing myself from a company, a tenant that I'm no longer an employee of.
Yeah, but did she indicate which product this is for? I mean, I'm speaking of the OneDrive case, but
I believe so. This came from the Teams community.
So that's the context here. I don't know if that's the registry storage specifically applies to Teams. I just know that for OneDrive. So I'm assuming Teams does something similar, but that's merely a guess.
So what Sean McDonough is suggesting that if you don't know where to go, start with your registry files and delete things. Is how I interpret that.
Yeah, make sure you got his name out there, Christian. Can you put a lower third on
Sean? I know.
See, Mark Rackley, we treat each other poorly too.
Sean is SEAN.
Shut up, Chris.
All right. Question number 4. Mary asks, would anyone know why my email signature won't keep my badges GIF? And
badges?
Yes, it's
don't need
GIF,
those stinking badges. No,
GIF.
it's both.
We don't need those.
So I made a GIF from a PowerPoint showing all the badges I've earned, but the email signature will only stay for a couple of hours and then revert to the old simple signature. Is there a way around it so the badges GIF will stay?
Are they syncing their Outlook settings to the cloud?
Yeah, it depends on how you're adding this. Outlook has a number of different places. Basically, are you sure you're saving the signature? Because you can have several inside Outlook, depending on what client, what user account you're using. You can have. There is basically a drop down for picking whatever signature you want to have appear on a regular basis. Now, if you're saving a signature and this thing just simply reverts itself back to something else, something is not happening correctly with the sync between Outlook and the Exchange server that you're talking to, or whatever client you're talking to, unless you're using something like a POP account. And of course, none of this is specified. So this is one of those need more information things again.
Well, could it also be that the organization is enforcing some standards around email or template? Do you need to? I guess my question, because I know there are third-party tools, and so former client, and I'm a big fan of like the Exclaimer solution for email signature management and centralized management of that. So you can, as an organization, control that aspects. But out of the box with Microsoft 365, do you have the ability as an organization to go and enforce a template?
Well, the thing I want to emphasize here is that when you insert images into a signature, that's an HTML function. So the message format has to be HTML.
Unless they base 64 encoded.
Unless they basically correct, which I don't know a lot of folks that have that base 64 encode their images. They just provide a link to whatever it is out on, their photo website or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it's a formatting thing too, because it could be whether or not it's HTML, whether it's rich text, whether it's plain text, from the email format standpoint, who it's being sent to, but also what client's being used. And then finally, does this have anything to do with cache mode? Is the period of time that this thing disappears is when the Exchange cache mode catches up on a sync.
Yeah. So they're saying that it reverts to the old signature. So I'm not thinking the broken image file. But that's a perfectly valid point. The other thing is, I know I use Outlook for many different accounts, and I've got multiple machines. And it wasn't until I started, and when I flipped, buried in Outlook's, the Outlook client's options, is the ability to sync more data to the cloud. It was a specific checkbox I had to hit. And at that point, my signature started syncing to the cloud and across machines. But prior to that, each signature I would create would remain local to a given machine. I don't know if that comes into play here, or I do believe policies can be applied for the signatures for an organization. That's, anything can be pretty much controlled with Active Directory policy.
Yeah, the point that bothers me is it's there for 4 hours and then it disappears, and that's just not something Outlook's going to do, or an Exchange server is going to do, unless there is either a policy problem, or you've got the signature selected. There's roaming signatures was just introduced recently as well, so there could be, and that's had some issues. So you could have a problem in there, but other than that, it's got to be a sync issue of some sort.
Mary, if you just weren't so darn accomplished, this wouldn't be an issue. So I don't know what to tell you.
If we think it's a policy issue, I'd be tempted, assuming that Mary's an admin on her local machine, you could, set the signature what you want it to be, and then instantly run a GP update, run a group policy update on your machine, and see if it switches back. So 4 hours is an interesting period of time. Group policy updates typically run, I think, every 90 minutes. I think it's been a while since I've been an AD admin.
Yeah, unless you force it, I think.
Unless you force it. So if she does like a drop to command console, do a GP update /force, and then see if it changes like in a much shorter time period. Because if it's a group policy issue, it will change instantly.
All right. I'm going to jump to the next question. This is a good one. Eric, this is one I know that's in your basket of tools there.
You're being set up, Eric.
Yeah.
No, that's topic.
I'm just happy I didn't have to
about.
Spotlight him. Spotlight him.
That's right.
I'm happy I didn't have to respond and react to the French question in French. But anyway.
Yeah, it's not French related. I might. Let's see. Let me read. So Liz asked, I'm doing a project with an organization that has limited knowledge of Office 365 and Teams, but has made it available business wide so people can work from home. I ordered a new team through IT, and after many attempts, still don't have a functioning team. I'm interested to know how others create teams for large organizations. I generally just go into Teams. We lost some screens. Did somebody go in and do the highlight?
Must have.
Somebody must have.
Did somebody spotlight?
Who did
Yep.
it? It was Sean.
Yeah, don't spotlight.
It was Sean.
Me.
Sean.
You broke it.
Yeah.
Now everyone has to
Sean,
look
come
at me. Come on,
Yeah,
dude.
no, you
better
messed
than
with
that.
the feeds in the live stream though. That's the problem.
I think Eric highlighted himself.
Yeah, but we're already having a problem with Teams there. So let me finish the question. So I'm interested to know how others create teams for large organizations. I generally just go into Teams and allow the system to build all the digital infrastructure, creating connected workspace for me. The crew seems to think this is a SharePoint site to be set up as a Microsoft group that you then associate with your team's dashboard or something along those lines. Needless to say, I now have a couple of teams that are not fully functional and so can't onboard anyone. What are the functioning ways to create a new team with members and from her business unit? So provisioning of Microsoft Teams. What's the right way to do it?
Well, my first point here is it's Liz. So Liz, you're freaking me out because you keep using the phrase functioning team. And that's not a joke. That sets a whole other series of parameters around what should be functional, what should not be functional. I had a perfectly good team set up that I set up myself last week that I have full rights to, and it did not get created properly for some strange reason. It had to be blown away and start again. There are lots of ways to do this. There are third-party products. There is Orchestry that will do things in a canned way and create everything in a governed, synchronized way every time. But you really need to get your own requirements down on what you need to happen in order for it to happen. And I can't quite figure out exactly what you're trying to do here, but for large organizations, generally speaking, you need to have one way one process, one person or one group that is charged with creating these things and setting up your teams and your channels correctly. And that is the only way to do it. If you have people that are going in and trying to create and ad hoc it along the way, you will fail.
Well, it sounds like so she's put a request through her IT team to go and provision that team. So there seems to be already a process in place for going and creating that. But then it's either her understanding of what's done. I mean, if she said it's non-functioning, to your point, like, what is non-functioning? Like, the team is there, but we can't add channels. We can't add various apps and other services that we want within that team to make it functional, which, you know, could be functioning the way that it was designed. You just don't have the permissions to go in and add those components. So when you say non-functioning, yeah.
Sorry, Christian. She also says, I generally just go into Teams and allow the system to build all the digital infrastructure. How does the system do that? Do you mean you're just saying create new team, create new channel, and it goes a certain way, or?
I'm assuming that is provisioning the associated SharePoint site behind the scenes and all of the orchestration of stuff. But
SharePoint site, distribution lists, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You want to comment on the Microsoft group bit?
Yeah,
Anybody who's suggesting that?
Well, see, it sounds like she's saying that they're going in and creating something in SharePoint that's separate. Well, when you generate a new team, SharePoint is part of that. It automatically happens. There's nothing to manually go and create another SharePoint site.
Automagic.
It's automagic. Yeah.
Yeah, and bear in mind, there's no API and no methodology that you can use to connect other than creating a link to an existing SharePoint site inside a team. There is no way to do like a migration to a SharePoint site that will automatically hook up to a team. Automatically, sorry. Yes. That doesn't exist.
So on that point, I want to
not until we find the unicorns.
I want to ask a question real quick. Microsoft Group probably means Office 365 Group.
Yeah,
I would assume. And second of all, I want to rewind the tape a little bit because I heard Riz say use the word orchestry. What is orchestry?
Orchestry is a newer company that has created a Teams provisioning process in a very happy governed way.
Really?
Created by 6-time MVP Michael Masaryk.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. I thought he had misused a term because he was talking about orchestry.
Oh, sure. It's my fault. No. I see.
No.
They're out of Vancouver.
This term, Mike, that you didn't catch was automagically.
No, that one's actually in the dictionary. Okay. that one's actually there. Yeah.
I'd be happy to share a link, but I seem to have been kicked out of the chat.
No, we barred you from messaging us.
Today.
Yeah.
Me too.
I can't chat either.
It was a very intentional thing. Those who cannot chat, there's a reason why you cannot chat with us behind the scenes. Like we want none of that.
Well, that much is obvious.
Yes.
All right. Let's just jump into question number 6. We got 7 minutes left. We're going to try and get through 2 or 3 more. Mike G. So different Mike here. I noticed that Teams automatically, he's using the wrong word, automatically, I'll correct him, shows status based on what their calendar says. So if their calendar shows them in a meeting, it automatically moves them to that status when the meeting starts, even if the person isn't actually in the meeting. Is there any way to turn this feature off so that Teams shows status based on whether they are actually in a Teams meeting instead of just being a time where one was booked?
No.
So you've got it. You're supposed to be in the meeting for the next hour, and whether or not you join that meeting, it's showing you as busy in a meeting.
Well, it's an assumption, right? Based on, because it doesn't know whether you joined or not. Technically doesn't know. So if you're not going to go in the meeting, decline the meeting.
Yeah.
Why would you schedule meetings for yourself if you're not going to go? That's called focus time, according to Teams, where it will block focus time, and you can do this through Insights as well.
That's to make your calendar look busy. That's to make you look busy.
I mean, to be fair to her point, sorry, her. I apologize if her names are terrible.
Mike.
Her name was Mike.
Her name is Mike. Okay, sorry, Mike. Hey, Michaela could be. You never know.
Miguel.
You know, I'm one of the world's worst at this. I will get invited to meetings and I don't accept them unless I absolutely 100% know I can attend. But I'll leave them on my calendar knowing that they're there. So if I do get free time and say something else that should have been a higher priority is cancelled, then I'll go join that meeting. But I don't want to delete it from my calendar.
Right.
Well, we also now have dupe mode in Teams where you can set your availability to whatever you'd like for as long as you like, and other people will see that. So if you want to set yourself to available, even though you're on the golf course for 4 hours, you can do that. And again, my name is Sean McDonough, if you need a recommendation.
It almost feels like there needs to be an additional status that says Neil is tentatively in a meeting, as opposed to in a meeting.
Yeah.
Or maybe in a meeting. Right.
Well, but I think that's your point though about being intentional with your meeting schedule. And I mean, I do this too. Is I will go and put on my schedule. If I don't know, I'm trying to get better about not accepting but putting as tentative. And I'll have people reach out, well, are you going to be there or not? And say, you know, I will know 2 minutes before the meeting starts whether I'm able to join that, which is why it's tentative. And you know, and I will go and block out time.
And I specifically get people reach out to me and say, are you available this time? You got I said, if it says tentative in my calendar and you need me, just book over it. If you book over it and it's something I already know about, I'll accept it and I'll ignore the tentative one.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, anything that if you see my calendar that says I've accepted it and I'm actually truly busy, please don't double, triple, quadruple book me, which is what people do all the time and then complain that you don't join their meeting.
This is a standing meeting. You know what time we start every week, Neil.
I know. This one, I can't go into details, but this was kind of serious. Yeah. There was CVPs and EVPs on this call.
For those that are joining late, Neil also joined late today, so that's what we're giving a hard time about.
Way to call him out.
It's my job.
When one of Satch's directs asks you to be on a call, you're going to be on a call.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I agree with you. Like with people, like if it's critical, it must happen. You know, go and double book me, triple book me for that session. Let's have a conversation around that. And that's a strategy for getting people. Of course, if I know that it's not as important as something else that's there, I'll say no. And it'll fall off my calendar.
Right. I will respond.
Yeah. That is sometimes a non-response, the passive aggressive, just declining with no further feedback is your response.
Yeah, no, I never do that. If I decline a meeting, there's always a reason.
Yeah.
That's why I texted you. I messaged you this morning to say I was going to be late. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Jerk about it.
And this is why governance and culture is very important, so that everyone understands how people are responding and reacting to meetings and bookings and calendars and all those things.
So here's we're going to end on this one. We got a couple of minutes left. Scott, it's a bit more of a rant than a question, but I thought it was worth commenting on. No one started with this one.
A rant?
I know. No one tries to customize the UI for Word or Excel. People don't seem to skin Facebook so it looks different for them. Why are so many still so hell-bent on changing the UI to SharePoint sites?
Yes. Stop.
If you have pushed for this, how much does it tend to cost you in implementing? And do you get a real ROI? If you provide functional changes for something, tell me. I just don't understand the willingness yet to justify the time and money in pursuing this.
Oh, my.
Us intranet consultants need work to do, you know?
Yeah.
Configure, don't customize, right? That's what we say all the time. Still holds true today.
And people really followed that advice well over the years.
You know, it has been. That was one of the biggest complaints. That was one of the biggest complaints that happened with SharePoint over the last few years was, Microsoft moving to SharePoint Online, you're taking away our ability to go in there, the look and feel, the design aspect, the personalization of the environment, and how important that is. Now, I will agree that having a good-looking intranet and that good-looking interface, the collaboration experience, it does matter. It is important. Mm-hmm. But to the extent that things were branded and were built out, and let's face it, back in the SharePoint on-prem days, I mean, people with design would break SharePoint to force fit it into just another .NET-based intranet site or website. And so they would, there's like, why are you even spending your time, with SharePoint? Just go build a website. So.
How many times have you heard the phrase, I love SharePoint, but don't make it look like SharePoint?
Make it look like something else is the first request, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you don't hear that so much anymore. So I think they've overcome that for the most part.
Well, Microsoft, by going to SharePoint Online and the modern look and everything, Microsoft has really kind of forced a number of people's hands. Modern really does look good. And there is some degree of personalization with theming, fonts and color schemes and whatnot. And if you want to extend menus and whatnot, you can write SharePoint framework extensions to help with that a little bit to get functionality. But, just ripping and putting stuff down fresh, what's the ROI is a really good question. What does that get you?
If you stay within the support boundaries, if you stay within the tool sets, like you say, the SPX framework, the things that are provided and fully supported, then you can make SharePoint look not like SharePoint. You really can. Coming from my background as a PFE from SharePoint 2001 through SharePoint 2010 as a PFE, I know everyone on this call has seen some horrific jobs out there and had to unravel, unwind, to help upgrade, to help migrate. It's just not a pleasant experience to have to go through. Stay within the documented boundaries.
Are people still putting those little construction guy images, with the hard hats and the little barriers saying heavier construction?
Mike, our new website will be live in December 2018. Yes. Yes. So I was just to finalize, I will say that Microsoft has made SharePoint look not like SharePoint. It's called Microsoft Teams.
We feel you, Scott. Mm-hmm. All of us feel you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. We're out of time. Thanks so much. We'll be back, of course, next week at the same time, 8 a.m. Pacific. But we've got our APAC session that'll be happening at 5 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday as well. So with our cast of thousands, we'll be back to do it all again with new questions, new topics, new discussions.
We talked about this. Stop threatening the audience, Christian.
Yeah.
But we'll all be back. But thanks for watching. And, of course, you can find all of the past recordings out on the AppPoint site on LinkedIn, or you go to avept.it, whack 0365 hours. I know it's just that simple. It's in the graphic that we use to advertise, folks, right there. But you'll find all of the upcoming episodes that you can RSVP for, as well as all the past recordings. So with that, thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you tonight.
Adios.
Bye-bye.